What would you like Santa to bring?
Not cool.
Not coal. No, you don't want coal. Well, coal is, you mean clean, beautiful coal. I had to do that, I'm sorry. No, coal is clean and beautiful. Please remember that at all costs.
Oh, President Trump proving once again he is the president who can handle just about anything. That was the president talking to the kids on the line to Santa Claus Christmas Eve. If you didn't watch it, well, you probably had family over or something. But it was spectacular. And just downright adorable. We might have some more of those. There might be a few more of those moments from the president. It is Friday. It is Friday. It's Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. Once more, Chris is on that holiday break thing. And this is that weird week that gets interrupted by Christmas. And then we have a one-day work week. So today is going to feel weird. It feels like we came back after a week off or weekend off, and then we get a weekend again. So welcome to Friday and welcome to Monday in my head. So much to get to. The last 43 hours or so, 45 hours since I was last here for Chris have been just absolutely crazy with stuff going on. And since yesterday, we had major news yesterday with the announcement of the strikes the president ordered on the folks, the terrorists who've been going after Christians and killing Christians in Nigeria. And what a surprise, these people just happen to be ISIS. And I know what you're saying. We thought President Trump wiped out ISIS. Yes, he pretty much did. But they never really go away. They just kind of go to sleep for a while, and then they try and reformulate. And that's what we pretty much got over the last 4 years is the reformulation and the attacks on Christians in Nigeria. Now, for those of you who have friends on the left who are freaking out about this, the Nigerian government is in sync with the American government on this. The Nigerian government is in consultation with the President of the United States. So it's not like we're just going in and acting alone, rest assured. And we'll get some numbers, I'm sure, today, less than 24 hours after this, when we see what's happened. Will ISIS stop? Will this put an end to the prosecution or persecution and attempted annihilation of Christians in that region? And maybe it's a message to other anti-Christian groups around the world as well. But Nigeria was particularly sensitive because we've been seeing a lot of reports out of the area. Peter Doocy was on Fox talking about the attacks and the symbolism of the attacks from just this morning.
Yeah, Peter, it's notable when a major military move takes place on a holiday. Do you think that the symbolism of protecting Christians on Christmas factored into this timing?
Knowing President Trump, yes. And, he's got Raising Cane as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. He is the person that President Trump credits with coming up with the idea of basically the way that they quickly and decisively took out ISIS in his first term. The president always tells this story about how he was getting a briefing from some military advisors, and they said it was going to take months or years to take out ISIS. He talked to Dan Kane, who is now the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and he came up with a way to do it in weeks or months, and then that was that. And so, yes, the symbolism of doing this on Christmas should not be ignored.
Not be ignored, not be lost on anyone. President Trump not afraid to talk about his faith, his belief in God, and especially on Christmas, protecting the people who have been under attack for God knows how long in that region. But for anybody who's worried that this is President Trump just randomly going after people that we believe are attacking Christians, this was done with the agreement, support, and dare I say guidance of the Nigerian government. So don't freak out. And if you have any friends on the liberal side of things, you can tell them to relax. Join the conversation. What do you think about this? I'm good with this. I'm good with President Trump going in and taking out the ISIS camps that have been going in and killing Christians in Africa. The number, of course, 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. The strikes will be a major topic today, as we were surprised by this. A lot of us very surprised by this. So mainstream media will be reacting throughout the day. They also, I expect, will be reacting to a story that's just kind of hanging in the shadows from the last 24 hours. And that was the announcement by the Department of Justice that there may be as many as another 1 million documents relating to the Epstein files. And they're looking for volunteers to go through and help with the redactions that are needed to be done. 1 million more pages. Now that's crazy. And why didn't we know there were 1 million more pages? How could we not know? Or was this related to those storage bins, storage lockers that we were told existed, filled with Epstein documents and or videotapes from a long time ago? That seemed to be something that was out there, just kind of bubbling around. I'd like to know. But there has been very little media reaction to this other than announcing that the DOJ said there's another 1 million documents and, hey, we're looking for volunteers to help us redact. Do you think they'd let Michael Piercy and I go in and do the redact? I don't think so. I don't think they're going to let us near there because I wouldn't keep my mouth shut. Other things that happened in the last 24 hours. Somebody in Arkansas, not in Delaware where I bought my Powerball ticket, not in the District of Columbia or in the Maryland region nearby the radio station here or in Virginia. Somebody in Arkansas holds the single winning Powerball ticket, which is over 800 million if you take the one-time payout, and that's before taxes. So basically somebody won about $500 million after taxes, but in Arkansas. One ticket, and here's the weird part of it. You know, people are always asked, what would you do if you won a giant lottery? And obviously you would say disappear or try and find a way to protect yourself and insulate yourself. In the state of Arkansas, you do not have to come forward. You are able to remain anonymous, but only for 3 years. You get to hide out basically for 3 years. And I think in 3 years you should be able to build enough of a protective wall around yourself with people in support. Let's say you got $500 million tax-free that has come to you. I think you'd be able to hide out and prevent yourself from being attacked by all the people who suddenly said they're related to you, or you told them you give them a slice of the deal. Yeah, but somebody in Arkansas, and maybe it's a group of people, who knows, because they have not come forward and they have 3 years before they need to come forward. Just a rough estimate after taxes, one-time payout. It's even hard to say. I swallow every time I try and say it. $500 million from the Powerball ticket. Yeah, well done. Good for you. Good for you. God bless. I am not so fortunate. I'm back. I would not have been here today. Everybody says, yeah, they'd show up for work. No, you wouldn't. You would not be here. We have, as I said, many different things we're going to keep track of today. A few of them relate to goings-on with the government in Washington, D.C., the president and his decisions that he made. As I said, the attack on the ISIS camps in Nigeria and these terrorists that we hope are now taking a giant dirt nap. There was a story about the Trump Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts where a jazz concert was abruptly canceled. Canceled. Why? Because Donald Trump's name was on the wall. A jazz concert that had been going on for 20 years was abruptly canceled because Trump derangement syndrome. A gentleman was so mad that he canceled. Now, would you do that because the name on the building was changed? It truly is an indication to me that there's some serious mental illness on the far left, but you kind of knew that. We'll get to that. There's some clips from that. We also have an update on the Somalia story, not just what's going on in Somalia, but what Somalia has sent to America in the form of people claiming to be refugees who refuse to assimilate. And we know they are in the state of Minnesota, and they're in the state of Minnesota in such great numbers. I think we should call Minnesota by a new name. After all, they changed their flag. This year, Minnesota got a new state flag, and it looks remarkably close to the Somali state flag. If you haven't seen it, you can do a little quick search on that and put the two back to back. Yes, they're very, very similar. Isn't that odd? State of Minnesota flag now looks a lot like the flag of the country of Somalia. But they're so close, I think, in their philosophies that maybe we should change the name to calling the state of Minnesota we maybe should call it some Minnesota. That's it. Maybe some Minnesota or mini Somalia. Figure out which. You can suggest, if you will. Is it mini Somalia or Somalisota? We'll have to work on that. But there is more infiltration of the United States by Somalis. We played the mayor of Boston the other day who said Boston is strong just because of the contribution from Somalis in this country. Are you kidding me? And now the state of Maine also has a significant Somali population that is, I think infiltrating is too kind of a word, but we'll get to that. And we'll get to your calls as well. Let's open up with a call. James is calling from Wilmore, Kentucky. Hello, James. Hope your Christmas was great. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show with Opelka.
Well, hello. I'm so happy to be with you. I enjoy. I've always wondered, is your name Opelka, one word or something like
yes,
that,
sir.
or is it? It kind of sounds
sir.
Irish.
Well, I do have 3/4 of my blood is Irish, but it's an old Czech name. There's no apostrophe. The nuns used to want to shove one in there, but it's just as you nailed it, Opelka. But thanks for asking.
Well,
what's up?
Yeah, I'm a linguist. I love languages and names. Well, I'm sorry but I just want to celebrate with you so much for getting the word out. I'm a theologian, been working for 20 years to help the persecution in Nigeria. My brothers, one of them, he had his brother killed. It's just terrible for years and years and years. And of course, the Democrats don't care about it at all. And I just want to say that through my study of the Samaritan parable, it's apparent to me that President Trump is the true Good Samaritan who crosses national boundaries and takes chances to assist the servants of God who are being who are laying there suffering, and nobody cares about it. And even in the church, they just walk by like the priest and the Levite, and they don't care about our own brothers and sisters being killed every day. God used President Trump. I don't care people who attack him all the time and say he's not the best Christian. He doesn't even know if he's going to heaven or whatever. But the thing is, God can use an ass to speak prophetic words to Balaam in the Old Testament. He can surely use President Trump to do his work.
James, you are so correct here. And it's a very, very emotional and very touching testimony you bring here, and I thank you for it. Yes, the President of the United States has stood up for Christians who were literally under the gun and under the knife, as it were, in Nigeria. And now, hopefully, maybe his message will be heard around the world that we as a nation are going to protect those folks, those Christians under prosecution and persecution all around the globe. James, thank you so much. God bless you. Hope you had a great Christmas, as I said. I'm going to take a short break. You want to join us? 888-630-9625. 888-630-9625. If you listen closely, you can start hearing the countdown to 2026. So, yeah, we'll cover Christmas, but we'll also start looking at some of the crazy stuff that happened over the past 12 months. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It is The Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. Michael Piercy's here with me, helping keep me on the rails. You're welcome to join us at 888-630-9625. Maria Leaf on the phones today. Be kind. Well, you should be kind any day, but be kind. As I said, we have a lot to get to in the crosshairs, and we're going to need some time to do a deep dive on it. In the crosshairs of my various list of targets today, free speech, and what the left thinks of free speech, and what their friends in the EU think of free speech, and their friends in Australia think of free speech. We really have to get to that. And we will do a breakdown on it. But just when you think you couldn't dislike Neil deGrasse Tyson any more than you probably do, I have to share with you the post that Neil deGrasse Tyson put up on social media on Christmas Eve. He had a photograph of a cup of tea, some carrot sticks, and some celery sticks. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, as I said, I just find him to be disagreeable on so many levels. He's not a fun guy. He's not rational, and he's a little bit full of his own self. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson. He said, if people left hot tea, carrots, and celery for Santa on the table rather than milk and cookies on Christmas Eve, I bet he'd be much, much thinner. Have we looked at Neil deGrasse Tyson? I don't know if he's qualified to be telling people they need to be thinner. I'm just saying that maybe you in the glass house shouldn't be throwing stones, Mr. Astrophysicist deGrasse Tyson. Leave Santa alone. Leave Santa alone, please. And we will play more of the phone calls with President Trump talking to the kids who were calling the Santa hotline on Christmas Eve. There were some pretty funny responses. And one asked about leaving cookies for Santa because I believe she thought she couldn't. She didn't have any cookies to leave. We'll get to that. Some more of the Somali madness and more of the good things that I believe the president is doing to get the country to kickstart 2026 and have the economy roaring again. We'll get to all of it. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It is The Chris Plant Show on the day after Christmas, what our British friends call Boxing Day. I guess that was the original regifting, was it? Someone will correct me. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant, by the way. Boxing Day was the day when all of the servants who worked in the manor on Christmas, attending to the needs of the lord and lady of the manor, they would get their Christmas gifts. Their boxes would be delivered. But see, I suspect, and I have no factual basis for this, I'm just kind of making it up on my own. I suspect that these were all the gifts that the lord and lady of the manor didn't like, so they put them in a box and gave them to the staff. Hence Boxing Day. It's also Boxing Day if you're Canadian and if you're Australia. But I think Boxing Day is already over in Australia. Who knows? We have some Australian news to get to today. There are some interesting twists and turns happening in Australia after the horrific terror attack that killed 15 people, wounded several others not that long ago. Gosh, we're like 2 weeks from that horrific attack. And Australia is going to try and take away all the guns. That's what they're going to do because, you know, it's really the guns' fault. So they'll probably stop it, too. It's, as we know, making it hard to get guns in England. That stopped all the random killings. No one is using knives or anything else, just to know, or acid or anything like that. That's something you should know. And also, yesterday, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, traditionally days where people do go to church. You kind of hope and you believe, and then people will also gather with families, and sometimes they will watch the television for either those Twilight Zone marathons that are on once a year, or some sports. The NBA previously owned Christmas Day, and now the NFL has 3 games on Christmas Day. And I tried to watch one of them, but to be honest, my experience, yours might have been different. The streaming quality is not as good as the network broadcast, not even close. And I've got a good setup. We're not on the cheap Wi-Fi, cheap internet setup. It should have been really good. It was terrible. So I don't know how the NFL is going to fix it, but not good from my standpoint. I can't wait for the regular NFL games to happen. And I'm sorry for all of you Washington fans. Washington and Dallas just had a game that everybody thought was going to be important, and it wasn't. But the streaming was just terrible. And then there was the question of Amazon Prime and its streaming of the classic film It's a Wonderful Life. One of the great holiday traditions growing up in our family was we'd all get together and watch It's a Wonderful Life, because it only used to be on once a year. You didn't have access to all these films the way you do now. But Amazon Prime streaming It's a Wonderful Life decided that they needed to shorten it a bit. And they made it, according to people who've watched it, and the reports that are now all over the place. The New York Post has a very, very angry report on this. 22 minutes cut out of the streamed version on Amazon Prime. Now, why do you need to cut anything out of it? Amazon Prime is not adhering to any clock. You don't have top-of-the-hour news. You don't have any real schedule you need to stick to. Why couldn't you air the 130-minute film in its entirety? Maybe you put some commercials in there, but why couldn't you add those commercials instead of removing the actual meat of the film? In one part of the edits, remove the iconic sequence called the Potterville sequence, where Mr. Potter. We learned why George Bailey was so upset, and why he suddenly rediscovered his will to live. He declared he wished he never would have been born, and wanted to see how his crummy life would have been without him. And then you see him contemplating suicide in one moment, and then running joyfully through town, and there's no logical explanation to it. This really is wrong. And I'm hoping we could put some kind of protection of these classic films, that you wouldn't be allowed to do that. I'm not the only one who's upset about it. I know it's a 1946 film, but let's face it, it's a classic, and you cut out something that explains the real emotions and what triggered these reactions in the film, and it's not the same movie. So anyway, It's a Wonderful Life. You're going to see it. You got to see it. In its entirety, and hopefully without any commercial interruptions. That's my gripe. You're welcome to kvetch about things as well. The phones are open, as I said. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. We'll get to some of the warm and fuzzy stuff with President Trump answering the phones for the kids on Christmas Eve. But let's talk to Mike in Gainesville, Virginia. Hello, Mike.
Good morning, Mike Opelka. Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday. How was your Christmas? Did you celebrate?
I tried, yes. I can't complain about my Christmas. My Christmas is what it was.
Okay. That sounds like a nonplussed Christmas.
I got the Christmas I deserved. Anyway, Did you see the press conference where Trump said we're going to build these two huge, biggest battleships ever?
Yes.
It was back on Tuesday. And they're going to have rail guns and lasers like you've never seen before, all kinds of weapons, nuclear-tipped cruise missiles. And I think the Secretary of the Navy was there too, or something. And all this shipbuilding that's going to happen, and we're going to force the defense contractors to not get paid so much if they can't build ships quickly enough. So we're going to somehow force them to build these things as fast as possible. But nowhere in the discussion did we mention what the propulsion energy will be from these ships, whether it be nuclear-powered or not. And I thought this was an interesting tie-in to the fact that Trump Technology Company merged with a fusion company last week.
Well, so you're speculating that there may be a fusion-powered submarine about to be, or fusion-powered battleship about to be announced? Is that's possible? I guess. I doubt it.
All these lasers and high technology require an awful lot of electricity. You need some power source other than just burning fuel. I think there may be some tie-in, and we'll find out about it 2 years from now.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting one to watch, Mike. But we also have, at the same time as Donald Trump is announcing the battleships that he's going to build, we have people who are upset about it, and they say these ships are so big they're going to make themselves targets for bombs. And I believe the administration and the president and his team have already thought about that, because he did talk about the protection systems that will be on these ships. Those lasers are basically meant to create a golden dome around the vessel itself that won't allow for any incoming to get even close. So we'll see what happens there. But at the same time, I don't know if you saw it, but North Korea, Little Rocket Man just unveiled huge nuclear submarine, which it is a gigantic. I'm looking at the images that North Korea released, and I'm trying to figure out, is this an AI-generated image? It is a gigantic vessel that looks rather ominous, but we are told this will have long-range missiles as well involved in it. And he's also announcing new long-range missile tests. But very, very interesting that this 87,000-ton nuclear-powered submarine was revealed by the North Korean leader the same week that we saw President Trump announce the plans to build these two ships. If you haven't seen it, you should. I should post on social media a link to the story, because I do feel like this kind of looks like it can't be real. It is so massive. It is so gigantic. The Korean Central News Agency put out the pictures of it. So they're not exactly the most reliable news agency of the world. But they say it could be in the sea testing within months. It's close to operational, as we are told by experts who've seen it. It's kind of weird. Kind of very weird. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Let's go out to San Francisco. I have questions about San Francisco, as we saw the power outage last week that left the Waymo cars unable to navigate because the traffic lights were not operating. But let's talk to David in San Francisco. David, welcome to the Chris Plant Show. How is life in San Francisco?
Oh, it's not too bad. We're catching a little of this rain.
Okay.
You know, it's funny you're talking about that Navy business with North Korea and Trump. It's been over 100 years. In fact, I think the famous pilot Billy Mitchell was the one that was able to explain how battleships were at risk because of airplanes and missiles. And the idea that whether it's North Korea or Trump are trying to expand the Navy when missiles and planes can do far more damage and they can sink a very expensive ship. It sounds like a big mistake to me. But I was more interested in this rewriting history with the It's a Wonderful Life. I see the LA Times has got a headline on it, It's a Wonderful Ice. Trump World tries to hijack a holiday classic. Does it have something to do with ice in the new version?
I don't think so. I'm wondering. I have to look at the LA Times story. This This is just the reality of cutting up the streamed version on Amazon Prime, where they removed 22 minutes of a 130-minute film. That's a considerable chunk of the picture, which does affect the storyline. So I don't know the LA Times story. I'm going to have to look that up this morning.
Well, it sounds like Project 2025 would be the evil banker version. It's as if covering up for Project 2025. That the evil banker is supplemented with Project 2025, trying to take America's right to live, the right to be happy, the right to have a life of your own, instead of being just worker bees for evil corporations. That was the plot line all the way back then, and it seems to be what's going on right now.
I have to look at this up because I'm unfamiliar with the way the paper has written this, and I'll see if I can find it and make a comment on it. But hasn't 2025 changed now to Project 2040 because they keep running out of time? They keep moving the timeline back because or it may be 2050. When it first came out, this was, and I have to go back and look at it because I wrote pieces for it when I was at theblaze.com. This was the project that was trying to utilize a United Nations push to create these cities that would be walkable, and they get rid of you driving your car. And then, as you mentioned, the holding of personal property really wasn't necessary anymore. Where this goes back to the you'll own nothing and be happy situation. I do think they may have moved the timeline because every time they get closer and closer, and there were at one point 600 American cities, small ones, that had signed on to the original project. And it turned out to be a massive failure. Pelosi was in on it, too, by the way. She was very much in on it. But I have to ask you another question there. You mentioned the rain that's coming. We keep hearing some really scary forecasts on the network, weather forecasts about this atmospheric river. Are you guys underwater?
Not San Francisco, but your take on Project 2025 is not Nancy Pelosi concoction. No, this is a corporate state. The Adolf Hitler and the corporate state. Fascism's other name is the corporate state. And Project 2025 is the corporate state, where the corporations don't have to pay taxes, and they have no. They get.
Oh, I know.
You're
talking about the Heritage Foundation project. I crossed the streams on that. I'm sorry, it's early in my day, and I crossed the streams. You're talking about the Heritage Foundation Project 2025. My bad. Absolutely, I totally fumbled that one. But. I'm going to have to go back and read the article as well, because it is something I need to make sure I understand the entire article. But you're right. Yeah, you're talking about the book the giant book that the left was carrying around during the 2024 campaign that they pretended was this master plan to destroy America. I think they even had a giant prop version of it at the DNC, if I remember correctly. But, yeah, I'll have to go back and do a little more work on that. But thank you. I need to grab one more call before we take a break here. Let's talk to Alejandro in Vienna, Virginia. Alejandro, welcome to the Chris Plante Show.
Thank you. Thanks for taking my call. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks. Hey, listen, I'm a former NAVC shipbuilding contractor. I was out. We were working in Crystal City, right next to the airport. You mentioned a while ago that North Korean super submarine weighing 87,000 tons.
Yes.
And I can tell you a thing or two about engineering that is likely to be an AI photo or something or image. Because that's not going to work too well. The contract we worked on was for Marine Corps carriers that don't launch jets off the deck. It's purely static. It's for MV-22 Ospreys. Formerly, they could do the helicopters, So no launching off-the-deck capabilities, like in Top Gun, for those in the audience who are not familiar with the hardware. So anyway, and those weigh right around 40,000 tons, and they're humongous things. I mean, I've stood underneath one in Pascagoula, Mississippi, where they are built. Now, with that,
I'm up against the clock. You got to give me the summary. I'm up against the clock, brother.
Okay, it's not really feasible in terms of just floating out to sea for trials or just maneuvering it, and it's just too big.
Okay, I'm going to post a picture on my social media account as we speak. Anybody can take a look and tell me what you think. It's Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It is The Chris Plant Show. Chris is on holiday. Mike Opelka in for my buddy, and joining us, you, me, everybody, anyone who calls, pretty much, 888-630-9625. Mark is in Landover Hills. Mark, you get to help me wrap the hour. What's on your mind?
I'll tell you, Mark, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you and yours, buddy.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Hey, buddy, man, I tell you, I was listening, I almost fell down laughing when you brought up these intellectual ghouls that think they have the right to edit out Potterville. And that gentleman that called you earlier was 100% right. What a bunch of leftist nuts would do at their own beck and call the modification of a classic movie and think that it's okay. Anybody that would even consider that needs to reconsider their stance on doing so. You're
Absolutely.
100% right. They're a bunch of nuts. A bunch of leftist nuts. And
if the directors were, if any director of a movie that's been cut up were alive today, they'd be screaming about it. We'd hear that Frank Capra would be standing up and screaming, "Are you in with Potter now? Are you taking me out of the film? Is that what's happening?" It's the worst impression ever. It's Mike Opelka. I'm in for Chris Plant. We have so much more to get to on The Chris Plant Show.